Shoot, I forgot to hit recording before I started doing this. I was just doing a one server of some of the areas. Came back to the Shaman Village, one of my favorite areas, just because I was thinking. I think it's quite important that there's a Finger Ruins, and that this Finger Ruins where we find remember her name, but the Mother of all Fingers is right next to where Marika's village was. And that, I think the two fingers probably showed up here. I just got an item, by the way, so I'm going to read that in a second, but I haven't read it yet. Yes, the golden braid. That, this is where Marika met the two fingers, and maybe they started using her to, I don't know, as their entry point to this world. And she used them as sort of the starting point to eventually killing off what I assume are the one cent who probably destroyed this village. And I was also reading, I'll read that in a second. This. Marika bathed the village of her home in gold, knowing full well that there was no one to heal. So maybe the original idea was to heal her village somehow by becoming a god. Similar to how Mikola revives Radon. And, yeah. And that's probably eventually, after Godwin died, why she broke off the Rune of Death. So that would sort of, forcibly never happen again, and the two fingers didn't like that. They probably, I suppose, wanted the bloodshed to continue somehow. Sort of as somewhat maybe of an invading force for the Greater Will. That the Greater Will kind of is. The thing I'm not sure about, though, is how much, I suppose the two fingers, influences the outer gods and the Greater Will, and how much is the other way around. If that makes sense. I feel like I was going to mention something else, but I somehow missed this statue earlier. Boost Holy the game. Okay, so this is the version of it. This is probably what I'm going to need. Yeah. Interesting. To the grandmother. I'm not fully sure what that means. I suppose. Perhaps this was somebody who got turned into a tree or something. I'm not fully sure the implications of that yet. But yeah. I think I guess the next thing we do, I guess I'm going to have to remove this one for the holy damage negation, I guess. I still don't have all of the blessings. I think I'm blessing level 17 out of 20. I'm also still sick, unfortunately, but what was this? This was the switch. I don't need this anymore, I don't think. It's just, dude, that part of it is so just beautiful to me, kind of. Yeah, I've done everything else unless I'm forgetting something. I would ask you to tell me in the comments, but as I am recording this way, way, way before it's going to go up. Can't think of anything. I'm slowly going over the map. We never found Felier, but I'm guessing that just something, I screwed something up by going to the room where Letta and everyone fights us before doing whatever St. Trina had. Although I still don't know the full requirements of that. I feel like I imbued the sleep nectar like a few times to make sure nothing was going to happen. So maybe some other trigger happened in between that or something, I'm not sure. Anyways. Let's go. I'm probably going to be trying to take it a bit slow. I'm probably going to be muted. And I might also cut. I might decide that just this is going to be the final episode and I'm going to cut a whole bunch of stuff out. If it takes a long time. Which I'm assuming it's going to. Definitely hadn't learned all the moves yet. What is my holy damage negation? 67%? 68%? It's pretty good. It's almost the same as my physical. So yeah, I'm gonna probably mute and just start fighting.
Lord brother. At long last you are returned. Tarnished one. Aspiring lord of the old order. If you have known sin, if you grieve for this world, then yield the path forward to us. To I, Nicola, and my promised consort, Radahn. Promise you a 1,000-year voyage guided by compassion.
Winnable, I think. Winnable.
1,000-year voyage guided by compassion. guided by compassion.
Dude, I got so nervous at the end there. It's definitely achievable though. But this, man, this kind of crazy. I've been at this for a few days now. I did it. I did it. I did it. Okay. So, ooh, I'll do that in a second. I really wanted to do that by myself. I've spent the past few days going at it, basically. And I got, you know, I want to say pretty close a few times, down to 15%. But just every time that happened, that just drained me so much. And now I want to record this and I want to keep the music in for the winning run and stuff. But every time I'm recording and like the music's playing, it's just annoying. Um, and I'm not even sure, like, I don't want to say necessarily that that's a bad fight. It's just so difficult. I think I showed, at least, I think I showed enough mastery with that last fight that I could have won. Um, and honestly, way most of the time, like, the summons do not even survive for more than a few moves in phase 2. And it's just to get you there faster. Honestly, like, I think that might be the first time that the summons actually kind of lived for a bit in phase 2. I really hope that Remembrance gives me some cool Mikola stuff. Kind of thinking it will. Yeah, last boss and all. Like, they tend to know what they're doing a bit. I guess touch memory. Interesting. I guess we'll do that. Yeah. Let's see what's up.
Lord brother. I'm going to be a god. If we honor our part of the vow, promise me you'll be my consort. I'll make the world a gentler place.
Whoa, what's that? Oh. Awesome. Of Mikola's Light. Interesting. Age of Compassion. Well, so the obvious question is, right? Or at least I feel like the obvious question is, how much of that compassion would have remained into the godhood with all these crosses and things he abandoned? I think that's sort of the stance we're taking, and that's also the sort of idea that Mikola may be like, you know, sort of the child, although like noble as he was, like have got, you know, somewhat pressured into doing this by the world around him, both in the circumstances and how many people he saw suffering, and also probably a little more literally with, potentially, with people like Melania and maybe Radon and others looking to him as one of the most powerful Empyreans. Like that, just that he had the power to, and basically almost nobody else did. And he thought he did know what was right in the world. Sort of eventually blinded him to what it would take to get the power to do something about it. Is that it? I thought I would go up these gates. Huh? Okay. Can't read this either. Please tell me this is the remembrance of Mikola and not the remembrance of Radon. We have the remembrance of Radon. They're afflicted selves. I wonder if, with their afflicted self, does that mean Mikola as a god, afflicted with godhood, and Radon afflicted with, I don't know, Mikola? Or does that mean, like, the curse of childhood, and I don't know what Radon's curse would be at that point. Scarlet Rot eventually, but I don't know if that's what this is talking about. I think it's also quite, like, fits with the child theme to look up to Radon, sort of. Like, I think they could have picked a few people for this, like Melania, which I think would have worked similarly as well. But Radon is also a good choice. Maybe Godwin would have. Yeah. Can't really think of anyone else. I mean, Roddy could have, like, I don't know, probably coaxed him into doing something. Like, yeah, with acting as if she had good intentions, maybe. Please say I get something cool. What? I have the Great Swords of Radon. Why do I... Oh my god. What are these? So we have 3 things here, and 2 of them are Radon, which we already have the option of. And like Ashes of War and stuff, and we have like, I feel like very little about Mikola, and we're still getting Radon. Whatever. That's actually kind of really annoyed me. I do want to say though, I forgot to mention this, that I don't necessarily think... I would have to play the encounter before the final encounter again with Leda and company at a higher level before I can say it's truly good or bad. I think I just got quite annoyed because everything up to that point was like doable at a low blessing count, and that kind of wasn't. And I got annoyed at that, but maybe that's a really fun encounter with at a proper level, and maybe that's what it's trying to tell you. I don't know. I mean, show light attack. I'm wondering which one this is, because this could be like a few things. Found one that refused to be embraced. Like, really? Should we get like a Mikola cloak, right? That, like, yeah, actually very much annoys me. Like, it's cool, but we already have this. Interesting. That's actually an interesting little detail, though. It was part of Mikola's plan to get them fighting, I suppose. Oh, maybe he was... I think maybe there he was trying to kill Radon. So he could revive him as a god, maybe? Like in, Mog's body? What if it was Mog's body? The plan. It's kind of weird. It was Godwin's body. I think that makes a little more sense. At least to his plan, but like, you know, things didn't work out that way. Well, kinda don't want to be Radon. So is this the only, like, I'm wondering what counts as a Mikula spell. This one definitely would. Would the Ashes of War count? A slashing attack accompanied by columns of light. I don't know what this means. Like, this could be so many different attacks, I feel like. Both of these. I kinda want them all. Left way. 72. This is an int weapon. Why is this an int weapon? I don't understand. Are these int weapons? Okay, they are. 38, 12, 15. Are these 38, 12, 15? No. I don't understand, really. What is the 10 there? 20 minus 10. Oh, I guess maybe additional inputs? Okay, well, I only get one of these. I do kind of want to try the light. Maybe I'll do that on my own time, though. I mean, as far as I know, that's it. I kind of really thought there would be another, like, cutscene or lore revelation at the end there. Other than just, like, this vow with Mikla. Let me make sure I'm, not crazy. Ah, Lunchbox here. Come on. I really like just not walk up there and see what's beyond the door. That's kind of crazy, if so. I feel like. I do want to say, either way though, I'm pretty sure this DLC and this game is just like a 10 out of 10 here, and it might take over my favorite game of all time. Right now, at least it kind of feels that way. Even with these sort of annoyances at the end. I would hate to end off on that. Like, I want to find something good first. Where is Allsbach? Is he down there? No. Are you below him? Like, is he below something else? I do want to... I am going to definitely figure out some stuff on my own time, though, like what counts as a Mikula spell. If I've missed anything. Although, I kind of don't think I've missed anything big. I'm pretty sure I did all the Remembrance bosses, at least. Oh, here. Oh, he's dead. Okay. I wonder if he lived, if it would have been different. But that has to be, like, a near impossible task. Oh. What is that? In his hand. What is that? Do I have a telescope in this character? I don't think I do. So can I also really not restore the ring? That feels weird. What a tease if this is it. just like one Mikola thing. You can't restore the ring. The crown's kind of cool. Surely there's something in his hand. Really, there's something else to do in this arena. Like, surely that cutscene with... I mean, that is the first time we get to see Empyrean Mikola, I suppose. So it's definitely not nothing. Can I climb up this? Maybe I can climb up this. Kind of seemed unlikely, though. I feel like as, like, the final DLC, this is it would be a big tease to just end it here. Maybe I'll look up if there's anything extra and get back to you. Or look for stuff. Yeah. I did forget about checking on St. Trina, so I'll do that on camera before I go and look anything up. Kind of thinking there might be a small something here, but I'm imagining it'll just be like a line of dialogue. Oh! Ooh! What is this? Is this a headpiece? Do I actually get to wear the flower? Like I want it? Oh! Oh. I mean... yeah, it's something. Sticklet's kind of cooler, I feel like. Oh. And that's it. As I've killed Mikola, she's, died too. Oh. Kind of expected that. Kind of would have been cool. Like, we had the dragon in the other form. I think a flower person would have been pretty unique. Like a Saint Trina. I think that would have been really unique and cool. Oh well. Again, I'll look things up to see if I miss anything, but... that's all I can think of, for now. Like, at least in the Shadowlands. Maybe I'll do it once I have the round table. Before we, before I cut, and then we might, like... I imagine my next cut after will be the last cut I do. Anything new here? I'm also really sad. I was really hoping we'd get Mikola armor, like a Mikola armor set. Like, because I think the some of them are kind of close. Like this one, like kinda. This one kinda, even though it's more Melina. But yeah, it's one of the things I was kind of ready for. Toxic mushroom. Is this always been for sale here? No new Colosseums, I don't think.
I see.
Nothing to say. Nothing to say. I guess I'll also check the, inside the Erdtree as well. If I can. I think I can. You know, if there might be something secret, it might be there. After you're done. Or Millennia's room. Yeah, I don't think there's anything new in here. Can I actually get in there now? Maybe I can't get in there anymore. There's a chance I can't. I'll also check the isolated divine tower. Maybe the Shadowlands suppressing pillar. Might also be worth checking to see if we can restore the Great Rune. Yeah, I don't know if we can get in there anymore. I don't think we can. This game is so good either way, though. Millennia's room. There isn't really a Miklo room, is there? Not really. Not gonna say anything immediately. It's also interesting how, I feel like the base game feels more like a, single moment in time, kinda. But still. And the DLC actually was pretty, like, progressive in the story. Like, before that DLC stuff happened, Miklo was just, like, nice, I think. Click here, and then I'm gonna cut. Please say there's a Great Rune to be restored. Oh, no, I also need to check the, Shadowlands one. Nope. It's gonna be a little sad if, I feel like Elden Ring at some point was, like, conceptualized with Great Runes being very important to the gameplay. And by its first and last expansion, they're just totally forgotten about. Pretty much. I don't think there'd be anywhere else in here where the Great Rune would be able to be restored, so... Yeah. Really can't think of anything. Maybe... Maybe the chalice? What was in the chalice? It was just a whole bunch of blessings, right? They're at the base? That's what, yeah. Might as well do one server with that. I think the Shadow Keep is just the best dungeon ever made, even if I don't like the Fire Knights. The way it like connects through so much of the different world is just crazy. And the boss is like maybe the best boss. Even if he's not my favorite thematically, like he's not what I would choose is. Be interesting if the Shadow Tree just like fully died off after I killed Nicola. Just like the progress of time, sorta. But nope. I feel like this is an area that was well, kind of risky as well for just having blessings in it. Check here. I might check the Shaman Village too. Just for fun. I like that area. Not secret pit though. I feel like I would have seen something by now. Just walk to the edge. Where did we find... So is this where Nicola broke off his great rune, or... I'm just wondering why it's here. Oh, I guess it probably returned to the tree. Or something. That maybe makes sense. It's the same. Initially. Okay. So, this is probably going to be my final cut back. Yeah. Welcome back. So, I believe I have done everything. And I wanted to give some final closing thoughts. I think at the end I ran into a few annoyances. Both sort of with the rewards for the DLC. I thought we'd get more Mikula related things. I thought for sure we'd get a Great Rune. Whether it was Mesmer's, although, you know, maybe it makes sense that he never had one. Or Mikula's. We get potentially more spells. I thought we'd get more lore at the end. Although I think we can sort of figure out that a little bit more about what the greater will is with the Mother of Fingers, and potentially that this might be the ruins of... I'd imagine if this is the ruins of... this is the... I thought it would be the ruins of Metir. Or... Yeah. Perhaps this is the ruins of... whatever Two Fingers ended up instructing Marika to, and potentially having some sort of seduction and betrayal after her people were sort of massacred to end up doing her own massacring, and ended up ascending to godhood and creating an illusion out of it. I thought we'd get a little more about potentially other fingers or what the greater will more is. Yeah. It would have been cool if we got a Saint Trina form. I would have loved that so much, or other forms to more represent, I don't know, various things. But even with a bit of that disappointment, I have to acknowledge that this, like, and some loose ends, I think this is still probably the most complete I have felt a From Software game to have been. I don't think Dark Souls 1 is complete. I don't think Dark Souls 2 is complete. I don't think Bloodborne's complete. I don't think Dark Souls 3 is complete. Sekiro is maybe more debatable, but that's sort of quite different, I think. I think Elden Ring is the closest they've come to having a complete story. And even with some of its, maybe some of it still does feel a little rushed at the end, but I want to acknowledge that is probably very little compared to what this does right. All the dungeons, I mean, if we go to the base game, Stormveil, I don't think, and I don't think I brought this up in this Let's Play before, but I think it was quite a poor experience as a first-time player to the Souls genre, as someone who, I don't know, I guess thought that the game didn't want me to go to the Weeping Peninsula before doing that, which I maybe should have done. But on repeat playthroughs, it's pretty amazing, and all the secrets are quite great. I love the theming, like how beautiful of an introduction it is, how sort of pleasant everything is to look at, and also the revelation eventually, a few revelations that how sort of pitiful Godric is compared to the rest of the demigods, and how the ruins all around Limgrave are from Crumbling Fire Missoula. Liurnia, another fantastic zone. I mean, the lake-facing cliffs are just sort of a gorgeous area. I mean, having, like, Ray Lucaria is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen, to be able to ride all around and look up to, and have a man-made, like, academy castle. Like, it's so gorgeous. And all the, like, I don't know, everything in Ray Lucaria I think maybe doesn't hold up as well as Stormveil does on repeat playthroughs, but I don't think it's bad. And I think on a first playthrough it's amazing. Being able to explore all of that. The 4 belfries, sort of as, like, omens of what's to come, and little teases, is amazing. The Curia Manor I think is always going to be one of the more memorable mini dungeons for me, although I will say maybe the DLC has that beat quite a bit. But all of Ranni's questline is probably still, I would guess, I would have to think it over a bit more, but it's probably the most involved side quest in any of the From Software games I can think of. And the moment where you first find Siofra, I think is like a top 5 video game moment of all time for me. Just in sheer awe in that moment. And is one of my favorite locations. I mean, I love the Ancestor Spirit fight. The music's amazing. The visuals are amazing. How all these ruined civilizations stand upon other ruined civilizations is incredible. And sort of how we learned about that in the DLC, that how I feel like there are different cycles of Elden Lords and gods and genocides, really, I think. And how that's sort of seems like it's always been how this world has worked. I think all the NPCs that you find are amazing. Yeah. I think it gives you great rewards for a lot of the side quests too. Caelid's also, like, amazing. Like, going to see it in the Swamp of Aeonia for the first time and not really knowing what people are talking about when they talk about Melania and Radon, and then being able to find out all that stuff on a repeat playthrough once you already know and like have the context is also great. The different methods of like traversal from going either from the bottom here to the top of the map, in the lake to Caelid, Siofra to Caelid. Yeah, Starscourge Radon is not my favorite fight to do by myself, but the sort of spectacle of having all these summons with you, although I do think that that is one area that can use improvements, and maybe even an entire game focused around it, sort of how like they'd build up deflections in Sekiro or have faster combat with Bloodborne, and sort of how they could take that experience going forward. It's still quite the spectacle here, with all these different characters that you've either met or have like lore ties to. The moment of ascending to Altus is pretty great, either through the Rune-strewn Precipice, which I typically do, or up the Grand Lift of Dectus. Is amazing. I will say that I think some of the early mid areas of Altus don't quite feel like they elevate the game as much as like I feel like they should at this point, where you're finally approaching the royal capital, and I've ascended again either through the Rune-strewn Precipice or the Grand Lift of Dectus, quite literally. How it feels like the game should maybe ascend a little bit more with it. But I love the Windmill Village, like exploring that for the first time, and like how kind of creepy that was. Again, that's sort of environmental storytelling, and just like it's just like a village that I feel like FromSoft should do a little bit more of. Typically it's just levels and ruins and stuff, and this felt like a bit of a break from that, even if it is just people to fight mostly. And how I think looking back on that with the DLC, this is like Marika's whole world here, I think, is sort of an illusion. Trying to hold on to divinity or sort of recapture what she like to shape the world in her image, and how this windmill village might have been an attempt to try and recreate her own home village. That's not the right one. Of the Charmin village here, and how peaceful and sort of relaxed it is, and how that didn't really fully end up working. I think that's pretty cool. Landell is, well, I'll go with the Volcano Manor is, actually I should mention that I think the Shaded Castle might be my favorite mini dungeon in the base game. I think it just there's a bit of a layout of both being linear but also having other paths to explore, that I think they ended up sort of I feel like this is sort of one of the dungeons they made last in the base game, because I feel like that is the philosophy that sort of carried over to the dungeons and mini dungeons in the DLC. Like it sort of feels like that. Yeah, I will say that I don't like all of the bosses in Elden Ring. Elmer of the Briar, I think, is a good example, where it's like, it just feels a little bit bad to get hit by his attacks often. It doesn't feel like you fully deserved it. Even if the idea of like a kind of forced sword, like telekinesis sword, is pretty cool. Volcano Manor with its quests of the recursants. I love that From Software never really funnels you down into a single path, where if you commit to doing the recursant stuff, you can never do other stuff. I like that quite a bit. Yeah, the invasions all over the world is another cool quest. And I think Rykard is also maybe my favorite gimmick boss in the whole series. Same with Renala's Phase 1, whereas I feel like her Phase 2 more is, I don't know, a little weird. This is the type of gimmick fight that I'd love to see more of and built upon even further, but I think this is also the first time in the series where it's felt worth it. Like I think you think of old gimmick bosses like Bed of Chaos, Yorm, as like inferior basically to the general bosses, but I don't think Rykard or Vanilla are that. I think they're as good as and some of my favorite bosses, I think, in base Elden Ring. Yeah, Landell is maybe still my favorite dungeon of all time, although the Shadow Keep is also amazing. I think just the spectacle of, I don't know, just this holy city with this dragon corpse over top of it, and the sewers beneath it as well, is just like such an amazing and really speaks to me, I guess, I think. And Morgott is also an amazing boss, and I think is also an example of one thing this like average summon can improve on, which I think Melina actually fits the fight quite well as a summon, where she has the spell that, I mean, I guess we get right here to create the healing Erdtree, but Morgott also has spells that sort of control the area around him, like the pillars that erupt, and how it feels like Melina is designed for that fight, and probably why she's only summonable there. Yeah, getting to see the old round table is an amazing moment. I love that, getting to see the dichotomy of, like, through time. It's one of the reasons Ocarina of Time was my favorite game. Prior to this, I think, because I think have decided sort of that this has become my favorite game through this DLC. Going into the sewers, I think is another amazing moment. Again, it's sort of reminiscent of Ocarina of Time in the well there in the Shadow Temple, and sort of how perhaps this Golden Order isn't all of what it seems. Like, that's probably more noticeable in Elden Ring before this, but like really here, with all the omen in the sewers, and like, yeah, you get to the bottom of that with the merchants especially, and I love the musical aspect of that with them playing the song. I think that's a moment that I'll always remember. He's going down there and going down the well, and or going down the well, going down that hole at the end. The catacombs there are also amazing. There's some good storytelling with sort of looping the catacomb where you don't notice, but also having different enemies there. Like the omen who finds a corpse of another omen which you've killed in the same room is quite a good moment. I think all the visuals in Landell are amazing, going up to the dragon's corpse, going into the queen's bedchambers, and the Erdtree sanctuary as well. There's just like this beautiful mix of holy and nature sort of aspects, and up to the Elden throne and the giant sort of stone plaque that's been, like, not plaque, but the thing that's been hewn into the tree, the stone. It's quite an amazing moment. Going through the other underground areas are also pretty amazing. Like the visuals of where the Dragonkin soldier of Noxtella are something that, again, another highlight to me. And through the Lake of Rot, is it just an entire other, like, sort of thematic, I want to say, of this underground section. And then going back up and finding your way through this final part of Liurnia. Like, that's been... I really like the progression of that, of coming back to this sort of more general area, but you have a little kind of microcosm of it that's new. Yeah. And then I'm not the biggest fan of, I suppose, a lot of the mountaintops. I think it's really the area, maybe even Altus, I think it starts to feel like a little bit of fatigue from the same enemies over and over again, and kind of adds to the fact that it feels like this should be where the game gets better, and it just maybe gets just like ever so slightly worse in general, at least in my opinion. With reusing assets and enemies and stuff, this is, I think we're like first starts to great on you, and then once you get to the mountaintops, I think it does more. But I will say that the aspect of, where is it? Like maybe, is it here? No, it's the Stargazer's ruins with the jellyfish. which you get from the start, and the sisters, and then finding their graves nearby is another pretty amazing moment of storytelling, just like inner world and exploration. Going through Castle Sol, and sort of the whole plan there of Miquella trying to, it seems like, have some plans for Godwin. And maybe the original plan was to use his body for Radahn's soul. But that didn't come to pass. Because he got murdered in such a weird way and such a weird thing happened. And also I forgot to mention that this part of seeing Godwin's corpse is also truly amazing. And just going through the Nocron and finding this other coffin, and you think it's going to take you to the other part of the Ironsell River, and then it takes you here instead, is just, like, blows me away. And having this nameless city that just is somehow even more ruined than the other two with Deathblight. Also, like, truly special. And the Wandering Mausoleums are really cool. Again, they don't seem like that big of a deal, I think, once you've already played the game. But the first time you see those, and they're wandering around, and you see one underground and is wandering around, it's pretty amazing. I like this little area with the tree in the back with the Crucible Knight. Weirdly a favorite area of mine with the mini, seems like there's a small, like, tiny Erdtree, maybe one past, like, somewhere way in the past of, maybe that's what another group used as a holy symbol. Yeah. I think this last stretch of the mountaintops, perhaps, or maybe all of the mountaintops, might have been better just being fully empty, to sort of realize how forbidden this area really is. Could have helped, I think. Oh, and also I think Melina maybe is the most talkative companion in any of these games, and the fact that she follows you around and can give you lore, like, sort of lore details, sort of, not in real time, but wherever you are, is something that I want them to get even better at. But I think it's definitely better than the other games. Although, I suppose Dark Souls 2 kind of has that a little bit, but not nearly as commonly, I would guess, or as many times. Yeah. Fire Giant's a pretty good boss. It feels a little bit, like, weird, like a little glitchy at times, but I think the spectacle is pretty good. I think it, like, gets you into wanting to cut the weak point, like, pretty naturally. I think Alexander being in the fight's pretty cool. I think the moment of burning Melina or burning yourself at the Forge of the Giants is pretty cool. Yeah. And then, especially in the moment of then going to Fire Missoula, it's just another amazing moment. Especially the 4 belfries where you just see this gorgeous view of this, like, tornado dragon. It's so gorgeous, all the architecture and stuff. And although I don't really like the bosses here, I love Malekith thematically, but I haven't clicked with it gameplay wise, I don't think. And especially I don't think I'll ever really like the first phase gameplay wise, but thematically and with the cutscene is so good. One of my, like, favorite cutscenes, and the music in this area in general, and Lanedale and some of the others too. I've forgotten to mention. But also a fantastic dungeon. And then going in, finding a secret path with, like, basically a secret path within an optional area and another optional area to the consecrated snowfield, and having this whole area, the start being, like, fully in snow where you can't see, is pretty cool. But I will say, this larger consecrated snowfield, I think, wasn't that good gameplay-wise. Like, I think, again, just reusing a whole bunch of enemies, and also, just that it didn't feel very fair. Like, there were just, like, a whole bunch of giants and rune bears and enemies that really aren't that fun to fight. They're just there to be difficult more than fun, I think. And the black knives and archers, like, I don't think they were ever, like, it feels like they were never fully balanced around being fun. But and it was something I was really worried about going into the DLC, that this was, as their largest game, maybe they're sort of like running out of ideas on how to make these fights fair and stuff, and I don't think that's what happened. I think they just, like, maybe we're running out of time in these final few areas, which again is pretty normal for From Software. But yeah, going through Ordina and being transported to Michaela's Erdtree, which is another contender for my favorite dungeon. And even though it doesn't connect to the other parts of the world as seamlessly, I mean, again, just the colors and the architecture is so gorgeous. I think I like the first part even better than Alphael. Although that one room in Alphael, above Melania's boss room, is also just, like, breathtaking. And I wish there was a little bit more important stuff to do there. I know there's sort of, it was the end of the quest line with Millicent, but I feel like the Shaman Village, again, is another example of just, like, a gorgeous area that actually has a little bit of storytelling to it. And I guess it feels more complete as an area, like, it deservingly of being this beautiful in the story. But yeah, I think Melania, to me, is a very fun boss other than Waterfowl Dance. From Point Blank, if you're not out of range of that, or if you just happen to be, it's not really fun to... There isn't really a path to learning how to dodge it. You just have to keep, like, dying and dying and dying to it until you eventually maybe don't and maybe win. Or look it up and, die again and again and again and still probably don't get it consistently. But other than that, that fight is just amazing. I love the flow of it. Again, other than Waterfowl Dance. I love the flow of it. I love how her attack patterns. I love how, you can kind of stagger her as easily as she can stagger you. I love the cutscenes. I think it's maybe my favorite VA work of all time. Like, even though it's, there isn't that many lines. I'll always remember how, like, each and every word is pronounced in that, I think. Just with the music and the visuals, it's so gorgeous. Yeah, probably another favorite moment of mine in just all the video games is getting through that Phase 1 and seeing the Phase 2 cutscene. And, like, truly being in awe and horrified of what's about to come with the music, especially. And I think that's all the base game stuff. Rogue as well, I guess I forgot. Again, this is another area that feels maybe a little less polished, I want to say. Although the mausoleum at the end is pretty cool. And Mog, Like, I think, all the blood flame on the ground and just, like, over and over and over again, just, like, so kind of feels random sometimes, and some of the attacks you can do can come out very fast and not give you time to react. Really, it feels like just in the middle, like, it feels very inconsistent when you can actually attack and when you can't. Although, again, I'm sure you can learn it. But just on a first playthrough or on a, first few playthroughs, it doesn't feel amazing, I don't think. And then we come to the Shadowlands. And I mean, this introduction's pretty great. Like, starts out kind of small, it doesn't start out huge. And going to this Church of Constellation, and I think we're finding the Oathseeker armor there, which is, in retrospect, I think that's Letta's armor, but without the Miquella tabards. So either these were former Knights of Miquella that maybe were reconsidering themselves after maybe they saw a couple of these crosses, and maybe assuming what was going to happen, or perhaps realizing they had been enchanted, and I think Letta killed them all. Yeah, I think the boss is here. Like, I think the Western, I forget his name, but the Western Nameless Mausoleum boss was already, like, a pretty good start. I think it was one of the best invasion style fights they've ever done, where it actually kind of feels more, like, natural to a boss, at least to me. Ballarat is an amazing dungeon. I loved the Divine Beast, Dancing Lion. Yeah. I'm just sort of in awe of all of this, I suppose. And all the NPCs that you get to meet right away, the two here, Leda at the start with Magazine. And sort of the idea that this is a double dungeon and one you're going to do at the start and one's at the end is very cool and something I've wanted to see happen, I guess, for a very long time. And yeah, very cool dungeon. Again, I like the sort of culture they built up there too. I think the Castle Ensis might be the weakest legacy dungeon of the expansion, in my opinion. Especially just with Moonwith Hill, I think is again, I don't know what it is about Moongrum and Moonwith Hill, but I just hate them so much. It just feels so random, like kind of having to fight them in stat checky. But oh, I loved this catacombs. I think I loved the catacombs in many dungeons in this as well. The Death Knights were one of my favorite bosses, I think. Kind of sad that we never got their move. But hey, their Angel Wing, kind of like Death Wing move. Yeah, and I wasn't I don't think there's anything specifically wrong about Willana, but I think she just kind of takes too little damage at this point, and it feels like kind of such a chore eventually. Like, maybe with another build I would have enjoyed this fight more, but as it stands, I like the music though. And it felt like I should have liked this fight more than I did maybe my first round around, so maybe I will on more playthroughs, like with some of the dodges of Melania, and it feels like a little bit of the moveset, like, or style of other bosses I like Maria and Pontiff and the Dancer. Yeah. I think having that go to another Ultras sort of area is another pretty great move, and how the dungeons connect to just regions in this DLC is one of my favorite things about it, and one of the most unique things about it. Being able to go down here as well. I don't even remember how we fully got into the Cerulean Coast, but this is another beautiful area. Again, I feel like I wasn't really feeling it at the start, but once I'm done with it, now that I'm done with it, another favorite area of mine, I think, just like in thematic and visual and coloration. Very, very beautiful. And I love the Saint Trina story. I think she's one of my favorite characters. And very, when Tholier says, when you first meet him, that he wishes he could see, it's something like the beauty of Saint Trina one more time. It doesn't, it feels kind of weird until you see the design of Saint Trina, and how it feels like this, perhaps she, in falling, being pushed off the fissure or whatever Mikola did, after, again, another cool detail, this is where he discards his hesitation and inability to make decision, and then, probably in, just decides sort of on a whim to actually commit to the idea of killing off Saint Trina here, and how that feels like sort of like a progression of a story, I think, more than most things in the base game did, and how I think when Saint Trina fell and died mostly, how her being an Empyrean or being part of Mikola, who's becoming a god, or the Great Rune or something, kept her alive and regrew her sort of as a flower. It's just so gorgeous. Coming down, I think we came down this way, right? And then we went to the Finger Ruins. That's another area that's it's very unique. Feels very unique. Very kind of a little bit Bloodborne-y, but definitely also very fantasy. In that, the music feels very celestial and it's very dark. But I don't know. There's still a beauty to that, and how the fingers are sort of really did come back in a big way, I think. The sort of finger symbology and the lily symbology of for so long in the base game, I forgot to mention thinking about Mikola and Saint Trina and having one of the biggest connections be the where are they? Trina's Lily and Mikola's Lily, and sort of thinking about that for so long, and since Elden Ring's release, and having that come back in such a way where Saint Trina is sort of reborn as a lily, and there's this new type of lily because of that. That's even more sleep related, is like, and more unique to Saint Trina because she used to be sharing part of Mikola. It's very thematically cool, and whoever decided that, like, truly amazing. I don't think that's a George R. R. Martin thing because again, I don't feel like most of this I think most of this the storylines in this DLC aren't a George R. R. Martin thing. Like I think maybe the Shaman Village and then the Horn Scent probably are, and Mesmer probably is. But the newer stuff of like Mikola and the people who follow him and how they've moved through this area, I think it's just like a From Software thing, and I think that's mostly pretty amazing, and especially here. I think going up the dragons thing again, it feels. I want to say a little bit that this is maybe the part that felt the most somewhat disconnected from the other part of the story. It's because just like really we're doing the whole dragon thing again. But you know, people like dragons, and there's some people that love this, and I think I'm maybe not as into dragons as a lot of other people. But still, I think Egon was a cool NPC. I loved hearing him speak. Again, amazing, great VA work, I think. That goes to everyone in the base game and the DLC, in my opinion. I mean, this is the best example I can think of just great voice acting consistently that I can think of. Yeah. And I think some people take take that for granted. Having the other, going over this dragon to another hidden area, kind of, even if it didn't amount to that much, I don't think. I'm trying to think, what was over here? Like a death bird, I didn't end up killing, so maybe there's a little bit there. But I think there was some cool spells and weapons, sort of death related. And how I think this area is red, and maybe this area was also red at some point, but it's becoming more blue as the sort of influence of Saint Trina with her purple is taking over, because red and blue make purple. That's another cool kind of thing. Yeah, I like Bale. I think I'll like Bale even more once I do him on another playthrough. But I think it was just because it was one of the last things I did. I was maybe a little bit tired by that point. And I sort of get that way about all the From Software games, even if I love them all. It's just once you get towards the end, you're just I kind of want to see this through. Yeah, I think the suppressing pillar is a good thing for lore people about where exactly the Shadowland is. I think the Ruined Forges really felt kind of Zelda mini dungeons. And it was also a cool thing, although I think maybe the fights against the golems are a little finicky. But the throwing weapons are very cool as a weapon type, and all the weapon types I think are pretty cool. The perfume bottles, I think the light greatsword might be my favorite new moveset, and I want to do some sort of playthrough with that. In general. Let's see what else. The Mont ruins eventually leading into this village is pretty cool. And yeah. And all the jails with the pots. And I think it's sort of a different cultural thing that perhaps I think the shamans were put in these pots, right? Marika's people. And when she created these jars, she wanted to make them as kind of more pure as possible, filled with warriors who have already died, and very happy, seemingly. Yeah, I think that's also another cool thing, a continuation. I mean, I've said this already, but I think the Shadowkeep might be the best dungeon ever made. Just because I think it deals with the central room, which I love, or at least the storehouse part of it. And again, I don't love the Fire Knights, and dealing with them. But everything else to me is just 10 out of 10 about this dungeon. This whole other hidden area, which I don't even remember how you get to. Necessarily. Oh yeah, through here. You go up through the Moth ruins, you go down, and then you go around. and through here to this other hidden area that leads to another hidden area is also very cool. And the way this ties, like, I already kind of knew this would tie into this area, which I wanted to see for a long time, and it was very, like, I don't know, this felt just like a whole other era of civilization. I'm not getting my house. Getting a bit ahead of myself. But it's hard to when not to when the Shadow Keeper like leads you to all the different areas. Getting to Mesmer was very cool. I think that's also the cool, maybe, like, again, maybe not quite my favorite thematic. I think I like something like Millennia more, or Nicola more, or Morgott more, or even like Renala and Rykard more, a little bit. But gameplay-wise, this fight is just like an 11 out of 10. I think it's the best fight that anyone's ever made. Going over to the Ancient Ruins, I think this is maybe my favorite general area just in the whole game. It's very beautiful. I like how it feels so half like an actual more region and half like a dungeon. It's very classic to what I enjoy, like very kind of like Ocarina of Time Forest Temple-y, or I feel like kind of old Minecraft-y as well, which is kind of weird. But like something like feels kind of like the Aether mod or some like JRPGs of like these more general fantasy kind of ruins and like areas. Very fun to explore, and like going down in the verticality of it, the different like going in and out of the ruins part of it. Getting towards the end and then fighting Ramana, who's another favorite boss of mine. Like with the music as well, probably my favorite music in the DLC is her theme, which I wasn't expecting because when I first saw the story trailer, I was thinking of the first theme, and I was thinking more of it being Mesmer's theme, which turned out to be wrong. But I liked the second theme in that a lot more. But I guess the second half of especially of Ramana's theme was just incredible, and the callbacks to Millennia and Rot, and how I think her weapon, I don't know where it went. I wanted to put on the handle of Millennia back again, to sort of reminisce a bit. Here is the spear that we see in the story trailer of whoever's being, like, someone being burned, and I think that ends up being Ramana, and she ends up, I don't know, eventually afflicted with the Scarlet Rot, perhaps. There's some lore there. I don't want to reread stuff really right now, but yeah, another just amazing thematic, amazing gameplay boss that really felt like it sort of was bringing like very FromSoft roots. It kind of felt like some of that, but with designed in a way that didn't feel as clunky maybe as the old FromSoft games more kind of do compared now that I've played Elden Ring. But didn't also rely on like you never being able to attack or having huge like long combos with so many hits. Like it felt very kind of back to the roots of just like kind of more, I don't want to say simple moves because it was still pretty impressive, but I don't know why. Something about the flow of that reminds me more of old FromSoftware stuff. I think Gaius was maybe like my least favorite boss, although I think I also just kind of fought him at a bad time. I think I wasn't feeling super well that day, and I was already pretty tired from doing other stuff that I liked more. But I think this view is pretty cool. Again, I don't know if you can get up here. I don't think you can. I think that's a bit, or maybe something that was left on that was maybe planned at one point, but they just didn't get to it. Maybe this DLC will get some updates at some point, like small updates like that. I kind of doubt it. Like, I don't think FromSoftware normally does that, but I would like that. The avatar, the Shadowtree avatar, just another favorite fight of mine, just out of nowhere, kind of. I don't think I made a big deal of it at the time, but fighting the head is so cool. I think it pushes you two pretty well after a few attempts. Having it stagger pretty easily from that, and having all the phases, and have the music change each time to get like more, like it's just like fighting a losing battle. And how this tree is eventually just gonna die up, or dry up kind of and die. Lowering the water level was another cool moment, like very Zelda. I like that a lot. And then finding the other hidden area. I wish this was a little more solvable of a puzzle to get to this hidden area, but like I see thematically why it might not be. Um, and this was maybe my favorite part of the whole thing, or one of mine. Just discovering this village where sort of everything began. It feels like in this, not maybe in this world, but in this Elden Ring story. And the spell I was really kind of hoping for that would be in this DLC is here that Melanie uses, and this whole. It's so gorgeous, and I like how the music as well. I don't think it's. I think I have the soundtrack, and I don't think it's its own track. At least that I saw, but I think it's just like a reused version of part of the Elden Beast theme, and how like. I don't know. That kind of brings you back emotionally. That's a great theme. And how sort of peaceful this all kind of was at some point. And I think how these white kind of doves or birds is also reminiscent, again, ended up being reused in Landau, sort of as Marika's perfect interpretation. Or, like, not, like, mirage of what she wanted. And this tree at the end is also very cool. We get the golden braid, which helps, which is almost needed, I want to say, against the final boss. Kind of a cool thing. And the other finger runes. Yeah. And then I guess the ruins of Meteor are also, like, that's a very cool boss. Feels very different than anything else. I think is also like a fairly good answer as to the sort of the nature of the fingers that I honestly kind of didn't think we were going to get, and I feel like it's the type of thing that From Software doesn't normally give us. With how sort of like enigmatic the fingers seem, but there actually is a bit of an answer here, because this is where they first arrived, and there's a mother of them and all that, and it's the daughter of the Greater Will. And then finally they return to Belerax and Inir Ilum. Just another gorgeous moment. I wish I'd come back after doing more stuff, but I just, like, it was so enticing to me at the time. Yeah. Just a fantastic, like, so gorgeous. All the pillars and how all the trees and everything having this sort of like these people reaching up trying to get to these gods or potentially holding on for dear life, like, is another just great visual thematic built into this whole place. And how I think this is maybe the part most in either the base game or the DLC where like the inhabitants match the place, but also how it feels so Mikola inspired, even though that's not literal, but it feels like where you would find Mikola, you know? But also they like, it's its own culture. That's done so well, I think. Another great little dungeon. Well, I mean, not that little, gotta say. But, you know, not super huge. And then the boss at the top, which I think is, I'm gonna have to think a little bit more on. I think it could have been even better, but I mean, like, at the same time, I don't think there's necessarily a single move in that that's unfair, and it's extremely difficult, extremely challenging, and it feels like it should be, and it's very, like, visually dense. It's probably the most visually dense thing they've ever made, and most, like, zone controlling thing they've ever made. And how I don't think that's purely a bad thing is probably speaks quite a bit to, like, just how hard it is to design that type of thing, and how I don't think they got it wrong. It probably means that it's pretty amazing. I really wish we got a little more at the end. I feel like we already kind of, like, in the cutscene and having to fight that final boss so many times. I think we kind of could have figured out most of what was in that ending cutscene, like that Mikola and Radon made a vow isn't really a shock. But I think the midway cutscene's pretty cool, and getting to see Imperial Mikola at least a bit is also pretty cool. Again, I think there could have been an even better ending cutscene. But that wasn't the worst. And just, yeah, I think this is my favorite game of all time. And thank you so much for watching. Yeah, I think I'm kind of out of things to say for now. Maybe I'll say more things in the description of this, but yeah, thanks so much for watching.